Good evening. Before I call the meeting to order, I would like to thank the Edson Rotary Club for having come and met with us and made our summer quite an event, having a contest to see whether the east or the west entrance was the best. So thanks to the Rotary Club. I'll now call the meeting to order. All right, I'd like a motion for the adoption of the agenda for September 14th, 2021. Committee of the whole meeting be adopted as presented. Councillor Byer. Any discussion or additions? All in favor? Carried. All right, I would like a motion that the minutes of the August 10th, 2021 Committee of the Whole meeting be adopted as presented. Councillor Chenard, do we have any errors or omissions in the minutes? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Passed. Okay, delegations. Definitely our event of the evening. We only have this one delegation from Evergreens Foundation, Kristen Chambers. Hi, Kristen. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Very nice to have you tonight. You are for our whole meeting, so enjoy yourself. I'll pass the floor to you.
Sounds good. Would everyone like me to share my screen with the information that I had previously sent out, or is it fine within your packages?
What's your preference, councillors? Yes.
Thanks. Through the chair to Ms. Chambers. If you share the screen, then any viewers can watch it as well.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, absolutely. Sounds good.
Thank you.
I will do that. I have permission, I'm thinking. Yes. Okay. So briefly, thank you very much, first of all, for having me. It would have been nice to be there in person, as always, but this is just as good. It's nice to see everybody's faces from a distance. I'll give just a little bit of an update about the Evergreens Foundation right now. First and foremost on everybody's minds is how is Evergreens Foundation doing with COVID? And I'm very happy to report we have no COVID outbreaks or cases within the foundation whatsoever right now. So that is fantastic. We've done very well as a foundation overall. We have incredible staff, really keeping up to the public health orders, our residents and family members as well. So we're really happy to report that everyone's doing well. And yeah, so that's really good. Everything is, I'm sure you guys have been watching through the Facebook posts and everything. Parkland Lodge has been an absolute hit. Everyone thoroughly enjoys living there, working there, and they've had an incredible summer. So that's really nice to see the new facility really doing what it was intended to do within the community. And even despite the COVID restrictions, et cetera, it really is still remaining that hub of the Edson community like it has been for so many decades. So really excited about all of that. So the purpose of my presentation today is some of you may remember back in 2014, we did a similar presentation where we requested a letter of support and more than that, just an acknowledgement of the strategic plan of the Evergreens Foundation. Last time I presented to your council, it was a similar document, a strategic planning document that was attached in your packages. And this is just an update to that document, which I had promised I would keep the councils informed as we moved ahead through our different strategic capital planning. So that's what the letter was. Oops. So the two projects that we have in the hopper right now are both very exciting and much anticipated projects. For many years, it was Parkland Lodge, Pine Valley Lodge in Hinton, and now happy to report that Pine Valley Lodge is on schedule and on budget. Even despite some of the challenges we've had with some supplies through COVID. Our residents are actually moving into the first phase of our Pine Valley Lodge this weekend. So that is very exciting. In the Hinton Lodge situation, we did a phased approach. So we're moving our existing residents into one part of the facility, demolishing the old facility and building out the rest. So the grand opening for the Pine Valley Lodge in Hinton will be in the spring of 2022 when it's completed, but we are able to move our residents into the majority of the building this weekend, which is amazing. So the Wildwood Seniors Lodge, we did have a piece of land that was donated by Yellowhead County in Wildwood, a very nice piece of property actually. And our intention there is to build a 45-unit facility. Parkland Lodge is full. We may have one or two vacancies at the moment, but we do have still a massive wait list. And a lot of those residents are county residents. we are currently looking at doing like I always try to plan our sites from what does a day in the life of a senior within the region look like? And when you look at the Yellowhead County residents and their lifestyle and a very agricultural based community, definitely wide open spaces, lots of walking areas, one level, good views of the surrounding community and farmland would be very important. So this piece of land is really going to be wonderful for that. So 45 units will be our initial build out in this facility, but we will have the amenities size for the capacity to add an additional 25 units in the future if that's what the demand says. So Yellowhead County did quite an in-depth study in 2014. So we've used a lot of that data as well as some of the data that we've done on our own through census, which is reflected within the report that I was submitted with my presentation. So we were very excited. One of the risks, I think, for the foundation in looking for funding models is when you're trying to work with CMHC, everything is kind of a federal government algorithm. And it is really designed more for urban centers. So I was concerned about how we would fare looking for federal funding through the National Housing Strategy in a community like Wildwood or in Victor Lake for that matter. However, I was absolutely elated when we were approved for $225,000 worth of funding from CMHC for some seed funding. So that shows to us that this location does check the boxes, as does the work that we've been doing, both Yellowhead County with their study as well as what we've moved ahead with as a foundation. So that's very encouraging to see that. Yeah, and so it's given us the opportunity to do a bit of, like you see here, a bit of the preliminary planning. We have not gone to full design on this. This is just a kind of preliminary sketch. We have done some geotechnical work and a few other things, and we'll be moving ahead to do some, getting some prime consultants in the future, not too distant future. So that's a very exciting project. The second project that we have on the go right now is the Victor Lake Indigenous Elders Lodge. One of the struggles we've had over the last 15 years that I've been with the foundation is adequately looking after our senior population from the Indigenous communities. It's a very big step to go from living within one of the Indigenous communities into a seniors lodge. We found it difficult and many were not able to stay and return to community, or they did stay and really struggled to really fully assimilate into how our lodge program currently operates right now. So when we did our strategic planning 4 years ago, the first strategic planning we did with the current board members, it was brought up by Councillor Winston Delorme in the MD of Greenview, and we started some work right away on what could we do to really try to meet this need. And no different than we've done within Jasper, Edson, Hinton, what we'll be doing in Wildwood. How do we really meet the MD Greenview Indigenous population where they're at and where they need to be? So we put this on our strategic plan, started working towards it. And there was a re-release of a funding program called the Indigenous Housing Capital Plan, IHCP. So we applied for it, which we thought maybe was a little bit of a shot in the dark. And we were one of 2 projects in the province that were awarded funding. So it was an incredible win for the Evergreens Foundation. And even more importantly, it was an incredible win for the Indigenous community in the cooperatives in the MD of Greenview to be recognized by the province as an Indigenous community with the ability to access this type of funding so that they can continue with the housing of the elders on the site. So just an incredible project. Right now, we are in the stages of procuring our prime consultant for the project, and we'll be getting into the design phases shortly. So as well with this project, in the federal stream of funding, there is Indigenous streams of funding as well that we're going to be looking at, and are quite optimistic that we'll definitely exhaust every avenue we have to get some federal dollars as well. But really excited just to see this going forward. This 12-unit project does have a high project value on it. As you see, $7 million for 12 units sounds like a lot of money, and it certainly is. This project comes with a lot of infrastructure issues. being that it's in a remote location. There's a remote factor in general of building in an area like up in Grand Cache or in the MD, as well as just the lack of servicing within the Indigenous community itself. So I am meeting with the MD Greenview next week, and we will be discussing some potential partnerships on some potential infrastructure and different things like that to try to mitigate some of these higher infrastructure costs that the foundation may be having to carry. Yeah, and I think the rest of the report, I'm not going to go through piece by piece, as a lot of it was just updates from our previous report, and I'm hoping you guys had an opportunity to look at it. But yeah, what the foundation's looking for is a letter and a motion of support, very similar to what we had for the Parkland Lodge and the Hinton Pine Valley project, just to really have that consistency and clarity that you understand what Evergreens is doing going forward, and just that we have the support of our surrounding municipalities.
Mayor Zahara?
Kristen, thank you so much for your presentation. Just a point of clarification on the Parkland Lodge in Edson. Were all the rental units on the 3rd floor taken, or is there still availability for those? As well as when it comes to the Elders Lodge, with it being such a small facility, are you concerned with how you're going to be able to staff it from an operational point of view?
So the Parkland Lodge, last I heard, the 2 units that we had available were on the 3rd floor. So we're almost at full capacity, including the 3rd floor right now, which is fantastic. So we're really happy about that. I'm not worried about staffing, to be perfectly honest with you. We attract incredible staff. People like to work for Evergreens. It's a consistent industry, a wonderful place to work. We will be working on some operational strategies for things like laundry services, things that we can, because we do have a lodge in Grand Cache. So we really want to work together and see what type of operational synergies do we have, where maybe we can share some administrative staff. We can share, commercial laundry services. Is there some maintenance, things like that, that we're able to potentially share between the facilities and get some of those operational efficiencies. Certainly these smaller facilities are definitely expensive to run. Councillor Wilkinson did mention to me at one of our meetings that one of the questions I believe brought up by yourself, Mayor Zahara, was that, just wondering how the Evergreens operational requisitions compare with other housing management bodies across the province. And I looked very, very hard to find accurate data on that, and there isn't any. So the difficulty with the operational requisitions is you're trying to compare these 30-unit lodges, 12-unit lodges, 8-unit lodges with the 300-unit lodges in all these different facilities. What we know is that the larger facilities, you definitely have the economies of scale. But that is the price that we pay for the ability to house our seniors properly within their home communities. There is some subsidies that the province does give out for, it's called the Small Lodge Grant. That is given by the province on a per unit basis for lodges that are 30 units and less. So that's potentially something we could be accessing for the Elders Lodge in Victor Lake. But yeah, it is difficult. We have high costs out in the rural areas, and we do have a higher requisition for sure than some of the urban centers or places like Red Deer, Grand Prairie, where they can get those economies of scale in the 150, 200 unit facilities. So I will continue to pursue that number for you, as I've ruffled a few feathers trying to get even just some baseline numbers, but unfortunately I don't have a solid dollar value for you to come back at.
Councillor Shannon?
Hi, actually, thank you for your presentation. I agree. It was nice when we were in person. Just 2 quick questions. So both these projects, you've virtually secured funding. You're still waiting for funding, or how's these projects coming?
So the project in Victor Lake, we've secured funding for from the province for the $2.25 million. And the board has made a motion that we would go ahead with the project. So we're currently in the application state with CMHC to try to exhaust obviously their funding first. And then the remainder would be funded through our capital that we have through the Evergreens Foundation, so through the capital requisition program. Wildwood would be, at this point, we only have seed funding that's been secured. So we will be using the seed funding and some of our reserves to go ahead with our design phases of that facility, which gives us the opportunity to have a very strong, robust application that will go into the CMHC, which is very difficult to deal with. But we were successful in Hinton at receiving some funding from CMHC, and we're very optimistic because we did get the seed funding that there will be additional funding from the federal government for Wildwood as well. In the absence of that, though, the intention is that we would move ahead like we intended to do with Parkland and with Pine Valley, and that these projects would be fully funded through our requisition.
Thank you.
Someone else with a hand up too? Oh, Councillor Bevan?
Thanks for your presentation. With the opening of the Wildwood Lodge or even the other lodge, do you anticipate any rooms opening up in our Parkland Lodge here that people are going back to their home places?
Yeah, I do think that that's a possibility. It's amazing the building even the conversation of building a hamlet or building a seniors lodge, in a hamlet really brings up a lot of controversy for the pros and cons, but the seniors absolutely love the idea. And there's many from the Parkland Lodge as well as in the Sunshine Place Lodge that would be very interested in returning to Wildwood at such a time. So, which would be great. Then more Edson residents would be able to move into the Edson facility as well as the other way around. So certainly I think there would be a little bit of a shuffle for sure. But we would obviously permit for that.
Any other questions from councillors? Giles, do we have any media on for asking questions of the media?
We do. Adrian is observing right now.
All right. Do you mind just staying online, Kristen, until we get to that part of the meeting in case she has questions for you from the media?
Yeah, I'm open.
Thank you so much for your presentation. It's just very nice that they hear it from another voice, which is wonderful, and gives you a chance to show off what a great CAO you are.
Oh,
So,
thank you.
for that. All right, we'll just move on. We don't have much to carry through, so it won't be long that we're waiting for. We have no reports from staff, no sundry items, so we will be at the questions from the media and the public regarding items at this meeting. So do we have any questions?
I haven't heard from her. Let me just ask the question. Oh, there we go. Yes, we do. Fire away, Adrian.
Good evening, everyone. Kristen, I do have two quick questions for you. I just wanted to see if I read this correctly. So you are in the process of hiring a consultant for the prime consultant for the Wildwood Lodge. Would that then move forward at the third quarter of 2022? I'm just trying to make those dates work.
Yeah, so what are currently right now out for RFP at this moment is the prime consultant for the Victor Lake project, as that one has been funded by the province. That is the one that we are moving ahead with currently. We are in the process right now of developing the tender documents for the Wildwood Lodge. And we'll be moving ahead with that once those tender documents. It's a little bit of a precarious time to be entering into construction, anything right now. So we're just really trying to make sure that we've got all of our ducks in a row in support of all the councils, and then we'll continue to go ahead with the procurement of the prime consultant for the Wildwood facility. So there is differences between the capital plan document the strategic plan document and what is on the two single pages. The single pages are the dates that we're working towards as motioned by the board. The supportive living strategy was more of what we had talked about with the consultants at our strategic planning session we had in May. So those would be the information that you'd be going forward with would be the two one-pagers is the most up-to-date information.
Perfect. Thank you.
No problem.
Questions?
Yeah. I think that's all I have for right now.
Do you have a question, Adrian?
No, I think that's all I have for right now. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And Kristen, thank you very much then for your presentation. We really appreciate it. Thank
All
you.
right, thanks, everyone. Take care.
Okay, thank you. I'd now entertain a motion to go into a closed meeting session. Councillor Chenard, all in favor? All right, well. Councillor Chenard, all in favor? Thank you all.
I found you on the ferry. I thought you kind of were